Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started with our workshop today. I'm really excited that everyone is here to join us. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us today. It really means a lot to us. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So today this is our second workshop of our social media marketing virtual workshop series. The first we talked Twitter strictly, and today we're here to talk LinkedIn. So social media marketing with LinkedIn. Engage with us. Of course, this is a social media workshop, so please do engage with us via Twitter. We have a hashtag virtual workshop. All questions will be taken via the hashtag, or if you're here with us on Join Me, please feel free to use the chat pane here to join us. Also, we do have some attendees here in our virtual headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, please send them to Honey, and we will answer all of those at the end. So we're all here today because we're interested in marketing with social media. Our primary goal is to learn how to use these popular social channels to prospect, engage with, and convert our audience into leads. We all have goals, our marketing goals, and our primary purpose is to learn how to take all of these friends and followers and fans and turn them into viable customers or potential customers. So what is social media prospecting? Social media prospecting is one of those buzzwords that's out there today in our industry. And today we're going to define a little bit of what that actually means. So the stats are here. They're pretty clear. There are over 1 billion monthly active users on Facebook, over 230 million monthly active users on Twitter. And I don't have the exact stat, but there's tons and tons and tons of users on LinkedIn as well. And as marketing directors, marketing managers, vice presidents of marketing, it is our job to make people aware of what it is that our company, our brand, or organization offers. So the definition of social prospecting is the art of scouring the social web, identifying potential prospects, and engaging them. And the purpose is to engage them, to get them to our website, and then turn those potential prospects into customers. Social media prospecting workbook. This is something, it was a labor of love that we created here at Virtual Village Media as a tool to help everyone who is in need of information on uh, how to grow their social media following and how to, again, engage these people and turn them into customers. The workbook walks you through 5 different social media networks. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, and Google+. And we have sessions based on this workbook. So the first session was Twitter. This one is LinkedIn. I will be completely transparent. Our LinkedIn, based on some of the registrants that we actually had here today, I decided to change change some of the content to make it a little bit more senior than what we had actually in the workbook. So I'm excited about that. It's really crucial to me that everyone is able to take something away from here that's truly valuable to them personally, professionally, to their brand, and to their organization. So let's get started. So getting started, so there's some things that we need to prepare, right, in order to really go down this journey. So first, we need a social profile for that network. So if we are talking about, gathering prospects on LinkedIn, then we definitely need to have a LinkedIn account. Pretty obvious, right? Social media, the same. I mean, Twitter, the same. Pinterest, the same. So today we're talking LinkedIn. So it's really important that everyone here, in order to engage customers, has a LinkedIn account. Second, we'll talk a little bit about keyword phrases that people use to find you on search. And then organic content related to those keywords. We'll talk a little bit about finding content and then also generating content for your brand or your organization. Keywords. So this is one of those preparation things, right? So everyone here, based on your level within your organization, knows exactly what a keyword is. I mean, this is a phrase that's been around for about 10, 15 years, if not more. And Google pretty much coined that phrase with their search engine. So what we're talking about here is in order to really position our business based on the social platform that we're using, it's important for us to have keywords that really represent what our audience is going to look for in order to find us. And of course, now that's evolved from just keywords to key phrases. Some examples here for Virtual Village Media: marketing agency, digital media agency, graphic design. Those are some very broad keywords or key phrases. Of course, we like to make that more specific for our audience. So some that are very specific for us are virtual environment creator, virtual event planning. And what that means is that as a company, Virtual Village Media, that niche market of consumers, businesses looking to create a virtual environment for either training purposes or workshops or conferences, seminars, that's something that's very specific. So if someone, that one niche client is actually looking for virtual event planning, that's something that we want to have some content and have some content and some extra expertise around on the web so people will find us. Other keywords include web designer, web developer, event marketing, and trade show marketing. Now that we've gotten that initial step of the keywords down, your profile is your brand. This is very LinkedIn specific. Your profile is your brand. That is the first point of contact that people have when they come and they look for you on LinkedIn. Historically, LinkedIn has been very successful at joining us together with companies that we want to work for, helping us professionally build an online resume so that we're really attractive to employers. Well, that's not why we're here today. We're here today because LinkedIn also has a true value in connecting us with potential customers, with prospects. And so your profile is more than just your cover letter and your resume today. Today, your profile is your brand. So you want to sell yourself and sell your services on your profile. You want to, of course, talk about who you are, how you're an expert, but then you also want to talk about what it is that you can do for that potential client. You know, in the bottom in that blue box you see, potential clients do not want to know what you've done in the past. That's definitely a part of a resume and what employers want to know, but they want to know what you can do for them now. And that's where you're selling your services. So that just comes in like a little blurb of talking about exactly what services you offer and how that translates into something that you can do for that customer to help them solve a problem. Add a call to action. You'll hear this quite a few times in the different topics that I bring up today, but we should always close out any of our marketing promotions with a call to action. And what this call to action is going to do on your profile is it's going to give people an action to do that continues the conversation once they read your profile and they say, oh wow, this she or he can really help us solve our problems. Now what? Well, this will tell them, okay, well now let's continue the conversation by downloading some content, contacting us, reaching out to us, and we'll get into some additional samples of exactly what those call to actions be for you. One of the tactics that we're going to talk about today truly to truly take your brand to the next level on LinkedIn is to become an influencer, and that's by publishing on LinkedIn posts. When LinkedIn posts first came out, LinkedIn invited some key influencers in various industries to publish content, and that content was to attract people to LinkedIn and really set LinkedIn aside as a professional expert in these different industries. Now they have opened it up. So they've opened up this professional publishing platform, allowing members to be empowered by publishing their own original content. And that becomes a part of their profile and showcase their expertise. So Eric Gruber, the Chief Content Officer for Get LinkedIn Help, says that content shared on LinkedIn is going unnoticed, even if it's filled with great information. As we know, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, The World Wide Web in its entirety is an ocean full of information, and it's so easy to get lost there. So Eric's advice was that people who publish to LinkedIn posts need to stop using it as just another place to blog and to start creating content that positions them as thought leaders. You know, our primary focus when publishing any content, whether it's a blog article or whether it's to this platform, is for people to see us as thought leaders, you know, subject matter experts. People buy services and products from people who they feel are experts in their industry. So we'll get into some tips on how to set aside our content, how to make our content special. But first, we're going to talk about how it works. How does this whole publishing thing on LinkedIn work? So there's two types of content for the most part. There's long form content and there's short form content. With long form content, that's a deep dive on a topic that matters to you, to your audience, and also you start the conversation. You start the conversation by with comments. Short form is where you share links, articles, images, quotes, and you know you've researched and you found content that's relevant to your audience that's been posted by someone else. So now we're going to go down, right? So you're going to write the content, or you're going to find the content, then you're going to publish the content, and then it's going to go to your connections and your followers, and through them, if they're going to share it, and your own network, you're going to add to this global professional network. And there's going to be three outcomes from publishing this content to this global professional network. One, you're going to grow your own ideas. So by continuing to publish content and researching content that's important to your industry, that you will continue to grow as an expert. You know, a lot of us read blogs and we read documentation on what's happening in our industry, but it's a whole nother thing to research that, find out how it affects your audience, and then publish it. I mean, the investment level of your investment level is going to be a lot larger. You're also going to gain followers. The more you set yourself apart, the more you set yourself up as a thought leader in your industry, the more people are going to follow you. They will want to know on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, what it is that, Brandon or Daniela has to say about that particular industry. And all this is going to allow you to expand your professional brand. Now we'll talk about leveraging your strongest asset. In order to publish this content successfully, you're going to need to leverage your strongest asset. And as professionals, we all know your strongest asset is your team. So I have 5 tips here. This was something I took from the LinkedIn Corporate Publishing Playbook. And there are 5 tips here on how you can leverage your team to publish great content on LinkedIn. One, I highly, highly, highly recommend you select a content coordinator. This content coordinator is going to be the person who publishes your content, who comes up with the strategies, comes up with your narrative, keeps all your content consistent across all of your channels. This could either be a social media manager or a third-party content partner. I mean, we're all really busy. And once you start really engaging in your social media process, what you start to realize fairly, fairly quickly is it's a job all by itself. It's very hard, especially in a medium to large size organization, for the CEO or the vice president or the director to manage, or even a manager to manage the entire social media process. So it's better to have a dedicated person to handle that, and that's either internal or external. The second one. The second one is kind of touchy a lot of the times within organizations. And what it is really you're going to find 5 or more authors within your own organization, and you're going to empower them to create content. These people are going to be, the leadership. So I have one client. I always give this little story. I have a client, and they have 5 divisions. They have technology, logistics, training, digital media, and procurement. And once the website was built, I sat down with the client and I said, it's great that you have a blog. It's great that you have a newsroom. It's great that you're publishing content on all these social media channels, but we need to make sure that there's content regularly. And the way that we did that was I said that each one of your directors of your divisions should post content on a monthly basis at the very least. And And of course, it wasn't well received because everyone has a lot of work. But what that does is it does three things for the organization. One, it sets the organization up as thought leader, as an expert in each of those individual areas that they're trying to get business. Two, it sets their leaders up as experts in exactly what it is that they do for a living. So the digital media director, if she's posting content on digital media on a once or twice a month, then now she's a thought leader. And especially if she's posting that content to LinkedIn and it's being published on LinkedIn Pulse, and they're following all of these different strategies to elevate that content, then it's only a win for the company. And then also, the third thing is that it elevates the thought leadership of the team. So if everyone on the team is now engaged in, what their leaders are saying and which direction the company is going in as far as this content. So some examples here, senior director of product marketing, the CIO, it can be anyone. I truly say from a manager and up who should be one of these authors. Then you're going to publish posts and you're going to cross promote. You have to have regular content. So these, 5 authors really need to engage at least, once or twice a month is my true recommendation. Twice a month is best, once a month is fine. And then the more frequent you publish, then you build the audience quicker. Employee sharing and amplification, this goes back to, really just sharing the content with these employees. And so what this does as well is if your employees are following their leaders on LinkedIn, and then they decide to republish or repurpose that content to their own audience, then now they're professionally becoming thought leaders amongst their own circle. And that definitely points the audience back to the overall brand. And then feedback and iterate. My team knows that I truly am about metrics. Everything I do, I believe in the metrics. I believe numbers tell a story, and they can tell you which direction you're coming from, which direction you're going. And the same thing goes for your performance of your social media and your LinkedIn. You're going to, track your performance, track your shares, track your likes, track your comments, and then that will give you insight on what content is working for your audience, what content is not working for your audience, and just help really execute that social media and LinkedIn strategy. Here's some tips for success when it comes to publishing on LinkedIn. Be authentic. No one wants to, the people are not there to read documentation. They're not there to read, a thesis. They really want to find out exactly a genuine understanding of whatever topic that you're talking about. Take a stance. This is not a newspaper article. People do not want, someone who's straddling the fence. Choose side A, choose side B, and write about it. You might make some people upset. Everyone's not going to like it, but they will respect you for it. Use quality images. People click on imagery. They click on bright colors, vibrant photos. That's how you gather their attention. It doesn't take a big budget to get quality photos. I mean, if you have the budget and you have the opportunity, I do highly recommend working with an agency to set up a photo shoot, work with a professional photographer, and get the best photos for your campaign. But there are other resources. There's stock photography resources, and there's also, if you have a really small budget, you can definitely use things like your iPhone, but you really need to research on the best way to take good photos with these other solutions. I really, the last thing you want to do is post photos that are grainy, blurry, too dark, because those images follow your brand and your messaging all over the place. When you post something to LinkedIn, or even if you post something to your website, the image is pulled, and that's how it's disseminated across Twitter, across Facebook, across all these other places. So the last thing you really want is for bad, grainy, dark images to follow your brand and represent you. Discuss trends and industry changes, real-time examples and case studies. People want to know what's going on now. It's great to talk about what happened yesterday, the last 10 years of the medical industry, but I highly recommend putting that on your website, putting that on your blog, not on LinkedIn. I mean, truly, as professionals, we really only have, if we're lucky, about 30 minutes a day to really read industry leaders or influencers' information on a site like LinkedIn. the way to really set yourself apart is talk about what's happening now. Talk about, those hot topics. We'll get into that a little bit. The hot topics, the hot buttons of your audience. Use your keywords. Research those winning topics. What is everyone buzzing about? What is everyone talking about in your industry? What's your stance on that? Optimize headlines and images. That's, simple SEO. Just tag everything. Make sure that, your keywords and your key phrases are consistent. That's where that social media expert comes in. Close with a call to action. So even on your published content, whether it's a blog article, here we're talking about publishing to posts, you want to give people some direction to keep the conversation going. So, I write this great article about social media marketing with LinkedIn. Well, at the end, now, thanks, Michelle. You've said this is what we do. This is where we go with LinkedIn. Now what? So next, what I do is I should offer something to keep the conversation going, whether it be, a way to contact me, which is, pretty generic, to be honest, or whether it's a workbook, whether it's some value-added content, something that's going to allow that person to take the next step and set you apart from everyone else out there who's trying to sell something. And then plan your publishing times. Publishing times are important because each demographic, each industry has different times when people are available to actually, again, read content. Again, in my life, 10 a.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays are the days where I, as a digital media expert, have time to really sit down and read post information on LinkedIn. We'll find out for your industry, when do people really have time? Are you reaching out? Is this campaign directed to APAC, that's Asia Pacific? Is this campaign directed to Europe? Is this campaign directed to Latin America? Which industry, which demographic? And they're all going to have different times where you should really publish that content. And also based on the medium. Of course, we're talking Twitter, LinkedIn today, but depending on which medium, you should publish at different times. And there's a lot of information out there. Feel free to call me, tweet me if you have any questions about that. Here's a testimonial. So I've been, just running my mouth about this publishing on LinkedIn post, and you're like, oh gosh, here's another, another publishing tool, some more work for me to do. Well, here's the actual testimonial from a very large company, a very household name brand, who actually created some objectives and received tremendous results by taking this approach. So with Symantec, their objective was to reach IT decision makers and to become the world's authority on information protection security. They selected, this is that touchy part again, they selected their executives and their subject matter experts and encouraged them, mandated, that they publish to LinkedIn. And then the other part of this objective was to gain a wider audience outside of just their contacts, so in just their network. So they also sponsored several posts to drive relevancy. Their approach, they use social media liaison, there's that dedicated resource, to coordinate the content. They identified 5 senior leaders within their organization to publish this content. They published 2 to 3 posts per person over 2 months. That's one and a half posts per person per month. That's not a lot to ask, but they post frequently. And then they leverage sponsored updates. So out of 8 of these, they chose 8 posts and they sponsored them, and that amplified the content to IT decision makers outside of their network and outside of their leaders' network to just the general IT world. And they received great results. The results: 1 million plus impressions generated from sponsored posts, 73% increase in total engagement, and number 1 most relevant voice with IT decision makers. I mean, they accomplished each one of their objectives by publishing content to LinkedIn with a certain, and following the steps, maintaining the strategy. You leave something out, you're probably not going to be as successful. Eric, his quote is, publishing on LinkedIn was a pivotal moment in showcasing not only your company rebranding efforts, but our thought leadership as the Information Protection Authority. They really set themselves up as the thought leader. That word is getting, you're going to hear that word a lot when it comes to LinkedIn, but, a thought leader and also a subject matter expert. I like to talk a lot, but then I also like to prove what I'm talking about. Here, build a community. So this is the next. So now we've talked publishing. Now we're into building a community. And it's, I put on here start a LinkedIn group because that's going to be the platform for our community. But that's like secondary. Really the focus here is building a community. And it's have a plan. You know, LinkedIn groups have been around forever, but it's probably one of the most mismanaged and misused tools on the platform. There's a gazillion groups out there. Half of them are about the wrong topics, are not geared towards a specific audience, and their following shows it, or they become spam groups where it's nothing but just constant one-way communication. So we're gonna talk a little bit how to approach this a little bit different. So the first is to have a plan. Who's your audience? What's your approach? What's your objective? How are you going to get prospects there? And how are you going to keep them? What makes your community different? Let's say Symantec started a community, which I'm sure they did. The worst thing they could have done would be to start a group called Symantec. Okay. The only people who would have joined that group would have been fans of Symantec. If you're trying to reach a broader audience, you're trying to reach prospects, potential customers, then your group is not going to be centrally focused on your brand. It's going to be on what are the hot topics? What are the answers that your audience needs? So in Symantec's case, their group would have been something about the key problem, information security for IT decision makers. Those are the people that you want there. So you create a group based around the conversation that they're having on that topic. You know, again, if we're talking social media marketing for LinkedIn, the best group to create wouldn't be Virtual Village Media. It would be social media strategies for LinkedIn, how to grow your business using LinkedIn. Then you have people who want the answer to that question engaged. I would truly probably make it a little bit broader than just LinkedIn and go social media. Then you get a broader audience of people. And then create group dynamics that encourage conversation and entices more prospects to join and stay. You want to get people there. You want to keep people there. And the best way to do that is have a two-way conversation. You don't want to just shoot out information that's one-sided. You want people to post their own content. And then another good thing about this is to have a community manager. You know, have a community manager. This is outside of your social media person that actually just manages this community. That person is responsible for making sure that the content that people post is relevant, that will keep you from just having a spam group where people are just posting their own stuff and not engaging with other people. That is the absolute worst. And then that person is also there to help engage and keep the conversations going with the members of your group. Again, I could elaborate on this a lot more, but for the sake of time, I won't. But please, please, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. Integrate your strategies with content marketing. We are a partner with HubSpot, and what we've learned through our content marketing strategies is that value-added offers really, really, really make a difference to your community. And so this is when we talk about that call to action. And this this will be a great solution to what to offer for that call to action. Webinars, white papers, I mean, it could be anything from a case study. And this stuff, one, it attracts decision makers, and two, it provides information, quotes, value added, not just information, but value added information to your audience. So, one example is when we talk about blogging, Symantec is blogging about information security. Well, at the end of this, and let me not say blog, I'm sorry, they post an article on LinkedIn Post because it's very different from a blog. And once they post this content, at the very end of it, there's a call to action with a white paper on the industry, or there's a case study on a company that used the solutions that they were talking about, not specifically their solution because it's not salesy, but something that's a value add that will help your resource get to the next level. Cross-promote your content. I mean, that's just kind of self-explanatory. You're going to promote this value-added content across all your mediums. So across your LinkedIn, the same call to action that you have on your profile should be up to date and cohesive with the same call to action that you have on the content that you are disseminating that day. So if you are just writing an article on, let's get away from information security. Let's say you're writing an article on, the best location, the best destinations for your destination wedding, in December, and that's your article. Well, your call to action could be, the top 10 resorts in cold locations or something like that. Something that is a value add, and then you would have that same call to action across your mediums, creating a cohesive experience. So this is integrate LinkedIn with your content marketing. So these are the buyer stages. This is from HubSpot, and this will give you a good idea. Again, I will post this so people will have a copy of this information, but here's some of the content that you can actually disseminate and use for your audience. So depending on where they are in the buyer's journey, if the buyer or the prospect or someone in your audience, if they are in the awareness stage, so this means that this buyer is, they've expressed that they have a problem. They have a problem, they don't know how to solve it, and they just know they have an issue. And where they are in the buyer journey, what they need is they need research focused on vendor neutral, so nothing salesy, vendor neutral third-party information. Content types, where are you going to actually, what would be valuable? What would be a value-added resource for someone in the awareness phase? It's going to be analyst report. It's going to be reports, research, ebooks, editorial content, white papers. It's going to be, keyword here, educational. It's going to be something that educates them on the best responses to their problem. That helps move them into the consideration phase. Consideration, have clearly defined, so now they have clearly defined, with your help, they have defined exactly what it is that their problem is, and they're looking for a solution. So now they are committed to researching and understanding all the available approaches. So now you can start getting into some comparison white papers, some expert guides, give them a little bit more meat to it. We're still not selling anything, but we're giving them some possibilities. And then once they're in the decision phase, they've narrowed it down. They've narrowed it down to, in our world, the top three choices based on price, based on value, based on what it can do for them. One example is when we're looking for a content marketing solution, we searched, we had probably about a list of 50 that we started off with, and we narrowed it down to Marketo, HubSpot, and Infusionsoft, and they're all great, great, great platforms. And then once we continue once we were in this decision phase, and HubSpot and Marketo, they all provided us with these product comparisons, case studies, trials, which works great for software, and live demos, then we were able to narrow our decision down to the solution that we went with. This entire presentation has really been about this one slide, and this is kind of like a summary slide. It's about prospect building and nurturing relationships, from the blogging, from the content development, from making sure your portfolio is geared right, to the value-added content. It's all about building and nurturing relationships with your community, with your professional community. And the key here is building relationships take time. There is nothing quick about building valuable and quality relationships. And as a recap, here's some of the ways you do that. You develop your primary and secondary prospects. Your primary target audience and your secondary target audience are going to have two different hot buttons. They're going to have two different hot topics that and two different needs, and you want to make sure that you can cater to those individually. Provide relevant content instead of pushing products and services. Again, it's not about yourself. It's about your audience. It's about your prospective customers. It's about your audience, and really finding out what their needs are and giving them information that will help accomplish that goal. Encourage prospects to talk about their needs. So when you're writing content, you're writing an article that you're publishing to LinkedIn posts, or this value, and you're giving them value-added content, you want there to be a conversation. In the article, it will be in the blog, in the comments, in the group. It will just be a part of the postings and the conversations. You want to get them engaged in the conversation, and then you want them talking about their needs, and that takes someone being comfortable. And then continue providing value-added content. Huge wrap-up, sell your value and not your accomplishments. LinkedIn, again, historically has been very much geared towards that resume, that resume feel. You talk about what you've done, what you've accomplished. Here are my recommendations. Here are my endorsements. Here's who I am. But how does that translate into a solution for a customer? How does that translate into a solution for a prospective client? And that's what you really want to start selling to your customers. And now we're going to take questions. Any questions, discussions? It's kind of weird, talking a lot and not having a two-way conversation myself. But I really would like to see if anyone has any questions that we can go over now. Absolutely. So the question that Jay asked is that, this is primarily LinkedIn, and she has a virtual business. And with her virtual business, they very rarely use LinkedIn, which is honestly quite common in the virtual space. I mean, you have social networks that are a lot more used, a lot more widely used. So here, I would say that a lot of her question is, are some of the topics that we talked about today relevant for Facebook? Absolutely, absolutely. We will have a Facebook seminar next month, and what I'll say is the tactics are generally the same, but you do want to custom and tailor them for each platform to make sure, because there are different tactics. Like, for one key example is with LinkedIn, it's a truly professional crowd. So if you're selling B2B services, business to business services, then it's perfect. If you're selling business to consumer services, meaning like, hair care products, food, stuff that the general public's going to use, Facebook, Twitter, those are much, much better resources.